Hello friends, I hope that you've been well. Before we get into today's video, I just want to mention that I added a couple of sketchbook sessions to my retreat to South Korea. For those of you who don't know, I teamed up with TrovaTrip to go on a group retreat with some of you to Korea. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be there for an entire week and checking out all the things that Seoul and Busan have to offer, such as amazing architecture, incredible food, lots of shopping, and more, but also with the added bonus of some little art dates. So my vision for this is that it'll be a lot like my live streams. So essentially, we'll just have our sketchbooks, we'll go to a cafe, or we'll go to a park and just have a little art session. And I feel like with my live streams, it just feels like we're hanging out with friends. The vibes are immaculate. I have so much fun just like talking art and fandom and just like getting to know you guys. So I think it would be so much fun to be able to do that in person on top of getting to travel around in Korea. So I would absolutely love to have you as my travel buddy. All of the details about the trip will be in the description down below, but basically it's going to be 1 week from September 25th to October 1st. We'll be going to Seoul and Busan, and we're gonna have a tour guide with us the entire time. So if you've ever been worried about not knowing the language of somewhere you're traveling to, you didn't know how to build an activity list, you're worried about the transit system, you didn't have anyone to go with, like TrovaTrip just is like a full package deal so that it makes traveling so much easier for you. And you get to hang out with little old me and, meet some incredible people with like very like-minded vibes, because again, that's the sense that I get with my live streams. So anyways, I would love to have you, link in the description, and I hope to see you there. But without further ado, let's get into the video.
So starting off with the sketch, I am using a brand new sketchbook. This was sent to me by Etcher. This is their cold press watercolor square sketchbook. As far as I remember, I haven't ever used a square sketchbook before, and I really like square formats. I find them really satisfying. So I'm really excited to be breaking in this sketchbook. For whatever reason, I always skip the first page. I feel like there's just so much pressure on the first page. So I always end up skipping it, even though this in and of itself, I guess, still constitute as a first page in a way. But anyway, I am using my very favorite Kohl Erase color pencil for the sketching and using a kneadable eraser, which I personally prefer because it's gentler on the surface of the paper. And also I hate dealing with eraser shavings. And as you might be able to see, I do a lot of erasing during the sketching process. I decided to sketch directly onto the paper as opposed to my usual digital version and then tracing it onto the paper, because it is a sketchbook and it would have been much more difficult to have a light pad and do the tracing on it. So leap of faith of actually just sketching directly on the paper, but definitely making sure I press very lightly as to not ruin and create indents or have the sketch lines too permanent on the paper, so that I can have a clean sketch as much as I possibly can. And I am drawing my character Momo. For those of you who have been following me for a while, you are probably already familiar with this character. I essentially did a video about her way back in the early days of my YouTube channel, just thinking I wanted to draw a cute girl gang character. And then I just loved her character design so much, and it really I feel like represented a lot of aspects of my art inspiration. So I ended up giving her a name, and now she's become like a recurring character that I draw and like part of my brand essentially. So you can see I have a little sticker design of her that I made a little while back as reference, because it's been a little while since I've drawn her. I do feel like I draw her slightly different every single time. But in any case, the important thing here is that she's got the pink hair, the straight bangs, the little space buns, and then like the kind of half up, half down haircut, and that she is a girl gang boss. And here you can see I'm kind of finalizing the sketch with the Faber-Castell Polychromos. That way the sketch is not going to be erased essentially when I start painting. And for today's video, I'm primarily going to be using the Pebeo liquid watercolors. I've made a whole video reviewing these and my first impressions, but I completely forgot I had these for a while. And the thing about these, I believe, is that they're not super light fast, if I'm remembering correctly, which is I think why I don't use them very often. But since this is going to be just a fun little thing in my sketchbook, I don't really need it to be light fast. So starting off with the skin tone here, I painted the hand and then realized it was a little bit too peach for my liking. So I added a little bit of yellow, and then I started painting in the neck and the chest to get a sense of the color. And then when I was happy with it, I went ahead and started with the face. And this is something I've been implementing in my kind of process more now, is when it comes to the skin tone, painting the other parts of the body before the face, just to make sure I get the color exactly right, because to me, the face is the most important. And then here I'm adding in the blush, but the paint underneath had already dried. So you can see that it's a little bit too patchy, or it's just not as seamless. And so when it came to the nose, I used a clean wet brush to do a wet kind of wash first, and then I add in the blush, and that way it's a wet on wet kind of technique, and that allows for a much more seamless kind of blooming and gradient effect. That is what I wanted to achieve with the cheeks as well, but I just didn't implement that technique initially. And then I go ahead and use the pink in its most concentrated form as shadow areas as well. And then I dilute it quite a bit with water to create a really, really light shade of pink for the hair. And that way we are getting a very harmonious color palette by using the same, shade of pink for all the elements in the painting here. And then when it came to actually rendering the hair, I kept changing my mind about how I wanted to approach it. Initially, I thought I was just going to paint the entire thing with one even wash, and then I decided that I wanted to leave some of the areas white of the paper to create the highlights. So there's a little bit of inconsistencies there in terms of how I approach the hair, but I end up fixing it in the end with some color pencils later on. And then going in with the base skin tone, and then using the pink again and that wet on wet technique to get these really, really soft gradients on that peach. It just ended up turning out exactly how you want it to look. For peach, I was just very satisfied with the very seamless blending and gradients on that. And then introducing a very strong primary red. This is a part of the character design that I love. I love red and pink together. It's just so fun. And then something to kind of mirror the color palette of the peach and all the colors that are already on the page here. There's this little flame emoji essentially that I did with the base skin tone, the hot pink, and then the red. And for me, my character Momo, I say that she's an Aries, so she's a fire sign. She's very feisty, and so that's why I like associating this fire sign with her. And then for her lips, the character design, typically she does have red lips, but I wanted to add in the pink layer first, just so that when we add in the red on top later, it just creates more dimension. And then here I did the Japanese kanji for Momo, which is her name, which in Japanese means peach, hence the peach design in the left-hand corner. And again, just wanting to play around with gradients and with the pinks and the reds. So I'm just switching between the two colors as it's still wet, and then that way they just seamlessly bleed into each other. So for my proposed art contest, I am going to challenge you guys to create a new character that will essentially be Momo's frenemy. So, rival, friend, frenemy. And I think that it'll be really, really fun to see the creativity of you guys, because I remembered a while back I had done art contests and I just loved seeing how yeah, like unique all of your takes on with certain characters. And because many of you are familiar with my Momo character and it's like a fun concept, you know, girl gang character, I think that you guys could create some really, really interesting character designs. And so, yeah, that is the art design contest that I have proposed for you. This can be like totally up to your own interpretation. You definitely don't need to have your character in like a Japanese school uniform. Feel free to run wild with the idea. The main basis really is just that they're supposed to be like the rival to Momo, but like a friendly rivalry, you know. And the rules are really simple. Honestly, just like give your character a name, and all mediums are welcome. Feel free to use digital or traditional, mixed media, whatever you want. And in terms of like the drawing itself, you can keep it a portrait, you could have a full body, you could have multitudes of different angles, whatever you want to do with the character and presenting the character. That's like up to your artistic vision. As you can see here, I definitely got experimental with the mediums towards the kind of later half of this illustration. I have been really embracing the mixed media side of creativity just because why not? And I love using so many different mediums and I have so many. So I've been really embracing that. So you could see earlier that I used some paint markers for some of the kind of sticker and accessory elements of her. I absolutely love how the irises of the eyes turned out. You could see I started out with a blue base and then used this kind of purple mixture to create like a gradient around the highlight and then just really soft around the edges of the iris. This is something that I kind of mix with her character design. Sometimes I make the eyebrows and eyes a little bit gray. Sometimes I make them a little bit more brown. Just kind of depends on the overall color palette that I'm going for. But usually it ends up being kind of like a warm, like purpley gray essentially. And then for the eyes, I've been really enjoying creating like colorful kind of highlights on the lash line. So I definitely leaned into that here for her eyes as well. And of course, it wouldn't be a I'm a Wonder drawing without big, beautiful, spiky eyelashes. Such a satisfying part, and these paintbrushes do a great job at achieving those sharp lashes, which, for a shameless plug, by the way, these are my custom paintbrushes that I made in collaboration with Craftimo. There's still some available, so check the link in the description if you want to pick up a set yourself if you haven't yet. Another thing that I've been really enjoying is using varieties of colors for the line art. So you can see here, I initially had started out with a lot of hot pinks for the character's line art, but then I start introducing the purple, and then I start throwing in some of the blue as well in little certain areas. It just creates a lot of really fun interest in the piece. And then of course, we started to bring in the colored pencils for that added touch of texture. And I absolutely love the Prismacolor color pencils because they're so vibrant and pigmented, but at the same time, they do break really easily, and so I'm constantly having to resharpen them, which is kind of frustrating, but the color payoff ends up being totally worth it. I think my most used for line art at this point is this ultramarine Prismacolor color pencil. It's just the color is so vibrant and pigmented, like it just pops on the page so well. And you can see that it just adds that little extra flavor to the little bits of the hair. And then here I'm going in with another favorite, the hot kind of magenta, and then this like cyan blue. Again, this is just like the quintessential Momo color palette. And then just for an added bit of fun, I decided to create a grid background because why the heck not? And I did decide to use a ruler just to make my life a little bit easier. I didn't measure anything. I was just being kind of eyeballing it. But yeah, honestly, even though it seems like such a simple thing, I think it really adds so much to the illustration. And so I highly recommend just throwing in little grids in your illustrations because it's just, I don't know what it is. It just added so much to it. Now, basically, the whole thing is giving 80s inspired vibes. So I just decided to continue to lean into that. And so for all the kind of decorative elements, I'm creating like a little cast shadow with the blue color pencil to give it sort of like a pop art effect, or like their physical stickers in a way. And then I decided to create an outline around the entire character as well, just to really make everything pop and really lean into that kind of design element, because at this point it's definitely giving magazine kind of illustration vibes. And then I'm using I forget what it's called, the Pentel brush pen, just to create even more contrast on the eyes here, because that's where you want the viewer to kind of see the focal point. And I just really wanted her eyes to pop, but I did love the kind of purpley elements, so I kind of left some of it peeking out. And then, I just sort of did a few other little extra touch-ups for her eyebrows and adding little bits of texture with the color pencil and the watercolors. And then that was pretty much the whole process. And this is the aftermath of my desk, which features a lot of different mediums. And so for the character design art contest, these are the two options for the prize, which I will pick randomly. So you will have the chance to pick either the cold press or the hot press sketchbook. There will be one winner and you get to receive one sketchbook. The one that I used in today's video was this one, which is the cold press, and then the hot press has the smoother paper. And yeah, this will all take place on Instagram. Use the hashtag Momo frenemy to enter the contest so that I can see your entry. And then in exactly 1 month, April 15th, I will close, that'll be the deadline for the contest to be eligible for the prize. And I will randomly pick a winner and I will contact you via DM on Instagram. Be aware of scammers, just because unfortunately they like to take advantage of people during contests and giveaways and things like that. That's the difference of the paper. It's kind of hard to see, but just for your reference, for if you win the contest. And yeah, I can't wait to see your character designs. It's going to be so much fun. And thank you so much for watching today's video. And I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.
He looks like it's like if Mingyu was cosplaying Edward Cullen. I might have to do like a wash of skin tone because it's really giving Twilight.